What a week it's been for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's get to another reaction episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Better Than Never. Shit.
I'm not actually inside a women's prison at the moment.
The horniness just went up to like 11.
Good afternoon.
Also, a big you to Nick.
Let's turn this down because we've got trades to talk about. Holy cow. For a guy who said he didn't want to be the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers and that he had no plans to be that or to do that job long term, Jeff Jackson is cooking himself quite the stew here this week, isn't he? Ken Holland's official last day of his contract was June 30th. Now, who knows how long ago he actually stopped working? But in the, I don't know, 5 days that Jeff Jackson's been on the job, he has gotten so much done. We already talked about free agency. We already talked about what happened earlier in the week on Canada Day when the Oilers signed basically everybody. All your free agents are mine. All of your free agents are Edmonton Oilers now. Today, he followed it up with a massive trade. Today, the Edmonton Oilers have traded Ryan McLeod and Tyler Tullio to the Buffalo Sabres for the 9th overall pick from the 2022 entry draft, Matt Savoie. Yes, that is Carter Savoie's brother. But it is the one that everybody was excited about. The Savoie that we all wanted to see is the one that's here. And that's no offense to Carter Savoie. He actually got let go by the team, or he wasn't qualified about a week ago. They could still re-sign him, I suppose, to an AHL deal. But in Matt Savoie, the Oilers have got, from what Stephen Ellis, our prospect expert at Daily Faceoff, tell me, is one of the top 10 prospects in the NHL. Not just with the team, not with his new team, the Oilers. He immediately launches to the top of that list. He is the most skilled prospect the Oilers have. But Stephen was talking about the entire NHL. Entire NHL.
Are you, listen, top 10 prospect from the entire NHL makes Satan want to tweak his nipples.
Satan, this is supposed to be an emergency episode of the podcast. There's no need for such tomfoolery when we're talking about prospects. Not like Matt Savoie, not like the new Oilers prospect on top of the pile. Big Dave's excited because I'm an oil man. I'll never admit it anywhere else than here, but I'm an oil man.
And I quote from Stephen Ellis. There's an article up at OilersNation.com today that's titled, "What Does Matt Savoie Bring to the Edmonton Oilers?" And I quote, "The first thing that stands out when watching Savoie is his playmaking. He plays the game at a high pace, which means making decisions on the fly under pressure. When the game's moving slowly around him, he uses his patience to make the right pass at the right time. For someone who touches the puck as often as Savoie does, we don't see him giving it up all that often or sending it to somebody who isn't ready. When Savoie makes a pass, he does it with purpose. But the young center who can also destroy you with his quick hands and flashy moves, especially at one-on-one breakaway situations. Savoie's hockey sense can be a bit of an issue at points, and it's almost like he knew he was way too good against junior players this year, that he got lazy or gave the puck away trying to do too much. Playing in the NHL will expose those issues if it's not addressed. But we saw him thrive with Rochester, albeit with more skilled forwards than they have in Bakersfield, even in a small sample size." And I continue from Stephen Ellis. "Realistically, taking the Logan Stankoven route and being patient with him might be the way to go. There's no need to rush him into a competitive lineup on a full-time basis next year. Let him season, let him get stronger, let him learn what it means to be a pro. He's already had a taste for things, but next year will be significant for his development. For once, Savoie will enter the league where he's not the top dog, even if many believe he is NHL ready as of right now. Had the NHL-CHL agreement not existed, Savoie likely would have been a point-per-game player in the NHL last season. That's how skilled he is. But with the Oilers being a legitimate Stanley Cup contender again next year, there needs to be an actual pathway forward for him. Remember, Savoie is only 20 years old, so they can spend some time having him get stronger and smarter with pro coaching staff. Having him play bottom 6 minutes without skill around him doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and there's a question whether I want him playing at center or on the wing. Looking at Savoie's numbers, this is Bag Milk talking again.
Welcome back. Nice to read Stephen's article there on the podcast. Nice reaction.
Listen, Satan. He's trying to give everybody a picture of what they got here.
I know.
Last year, Ryan McLeod, I'm going to start with him first. In 81 games, he had 12 goals, 18 assists for 30 points. He had 4 goals, no assists in 24 playoff games with the Oilers. Listen, I like Ryan McLeod. I've often tweeted he's my favorite Cloud since the Cumulus. But the Oilers needed to find a way to get impact players on the lineup on cheap deals. And at $2.1 million, having the depth that the Oilers now have in their top 9, it was fair to wonder where McLeod was going to play. He's an effective penalty killer. He's an effective 200-foot player. He plays well on the defensive side of the puck. All those things are still true and will remain true probably in Buffalo. But there were also times when McLeod got frustrating. There were times when he played too much around the perimeter. And yeah, he scored 3 of his 4 goals in the Stanley Cup final. He got his first of the playoffs against Dallas in what was a pivotal Game 4. All that's true. But McLeod is one of those players that could have been frustrating because if he only had a little bit of bite, a little bit of edge, or maybe more of a willingness to shoot, he would have been higher on the Oilers' priority list. But now we're looking at a guy who was just traded along with Tyler Tullio, who is a prospect of no consequence, at least according to Stephen Ellis. If you watched the emergency episode of Oilers Nation every day today that Tyler did, he had Stephen on and he said, listen, I love prospects, and I'm paraphrasing here. I love prospects. I like watching them. I like talking about them. I watched Tullio a whole lot when he was a younger man, but I almost forgot that he was playing in the pro leagues. And when I text Steven about it, he said, I always liked McLeod because he played for the junior A team I worked for, but I can't believe they turned him and a useless prospect into a top 10 junior player who should have played at the AHL level last year. Awesome. Shocked. I cannot believe it happened. That's from Stephen Ellis texting me. He's our prospect guy at dailyfaceoff.com. So when it comes to Matthew Savoie, it's notable that he has had some injury concerns, and it's hilarious that it's a shoulder one because that makes him an Oiler already before he's even suited up or put a uniform on. But Matthew Savoie is a legitimate prospect here. The St. Albert native, reminder, was a 9th overall pick by the Sabres only 2 years ago in 2022. This past season, with the Rochester Americans, he only played 6 games in the AHL last year. He had 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. He had 1 NHL game with the Sabres, did not register anything. With the Moose Jaw Warriors in 23 games played, because he was traded for their playoff run, won the WHL championship. In only 23 games, he had 19 goals and 28 assists for 47 points. This kid is a stud. And the fact that Jeff Jackson was able to turn McLeod and Tullio into what could be a legitimate game breaker on an entry-level deal is nothing short of remarkable. This is not a shot at Ryan McLeod. I loved Ryan McLeod. I loved the way he played, and I loved what he did on the defensive side of the puck specifically. Even when he wasn't scoring, he was always effective out there. But what the Oilers need, especially with their Stanley Cup window open, is they need players who can come in and contribute on cheap deals. This is the first year, this upcoming season, 2024-25, is the first year of Savoie's entry-level contract. Carries a cap hit of $918,000, courtesy of Puckpedia. He remains a restricted free agent at the end of the 2026-27 season. This is a player who's going to be in the Oilers system for a long time. A long time. And he's going to be cheap, and he's going to score goals, and he adds a whole lot of skill into an Oilers depth chart that desperately needed it. I don't understand this trade from the Buffalo perspective. I just don't even get it. From an Oilers perspective, I do get it because they needed to get some prospects with skill in their system. And when you look at what happened in free agency, even bringing back, Adam Henrique, you look at the Oilers' depth down the middle, and you go, where was McLeod going to play? Because there's plenty of time for line combination speculation, but if the plan was to go Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl as your top 2 centers, which, of course,
really went out on a limb there, didn't you, buddy?
If the plan is to play those 2 as your 1-2, which of course it is, Adam Henrique is the 3rd line center. If they put Rico Brownmark together, then where was McLeod going to be? Do you really want him as your 4th line center at $2.1 million? Probably not. Of course, they could have moved him to the wing. I thought he was actually a better winger than he is a centerman, but the Oilers also needed to clear some cap space. They needed to figure out how they were going to fit everybody under the books without all kinds of fuckery happening. So with this trade, the Oilers now find themselves, and I'm going to find the specific numbers here from Puckpedia. Okay, let me read what they've got here. Let me read this. A lot of random deals happened today, but I don't care about any of that. I don't care about the random deals. I care about Ryan McLeod being traded for Matt Savoie. All right. After trading Ryan McLeod for Savoie, the Oilers saved $2.1 million on the cap and now are projected to be only $345,000 over the cap with Broberg and Holloway yet to sign. So I can't imagine either of those guys is going to cost a fortune. Neither of them have arbitration rights. This is one of those deals where the Oilers can be like, you're going to sign it or you're not. That's just kind of how it is. And unfortunately, at the early stage of a player's career, they don't really have all that much option other than just to sit out or sign the deal, which I'm expecting both of them are going to sign somewhere around $1 million. So that would take the Oilers $2.3 million over the cap. All of a sudden, getting cap compliant by the start of the season looks a whole lot easier, doesn't it? You could waive a player like Derek Ryan, and that takes a big chunk of it out. You could do stuff like that as opposed to having to make a big trade on the off the roster, you know. Ryan McLeod, 24-year-old centerman, year two of so this is the second year of his 2-year contract at $2.1 million. Tullio is in the final year of his ELC. Matt Savoie, as I mentioned, 20 years old. He's on the first year of his ELC. This is one of those ones where, man, I just like, I'm stunned. I'm stunned that Jeff Jackson has been able to do this because in this first week, his only week as Oilers general manager, I mean, he's probably pulling strings behind the scenes. I know that. Uncle Ken probably checked out 6 months ago. Bag milk, what are you talking about? I know all that. But in his first official week on the job, all I could think about is, what is it going to take to keep him in that job? What is it going to take for Jeff Jackson to stick around as the Oilers GM well beyond this week? Do you even have to sign another GM? Listen, admittedly, I have no idea what it takes to to be the CEO of an NHL organization. Not even the slightest clue. But this guy, let's recap quickly, brought back basically everybody who was a free agent at the end of the year outside of Foegele. Foegele signed for a 3x3.5 in LA. Too much for Warren Foegele. Replaced Foegele with Victor Arvidsson, $2x4 million. That's a better player. Brought in Jeff Skinner, 1 year, $3 million. Top 6 winger. Brought in Adam Henrique. He can be your 3C and a damn good one at that. Or he can play on the wing in your top 6. Then he goes and adds some defensive depth. Troy Stecher. I like that move. Troy Stecher is a very good player, albeit a small one, and that seems to be the knock against him. He brought in Josh Brown, who's probably going to be in Bakersfield, but adds depth on the right side. He brought in Connor Carrick. Same thing. Depth on the right side. Am I that upset that Vinny Desharnais left? A little bit. I don't like him going to Vancouver. I don't want to hate Vinny Desharnais, but I have to now. But the guys that the Oilers lost in Foegele and Desharnais, in my opinion, even though I loved them both, let's not pretend that Warren Foegele wasn't incredibly handsome in his Kobe t-shirt or if he was wearing those glasses. And I loved the story that Vinny was, 7th round pick that fought his way to the NHL and stole a job. I love all of that. But when you replace Vinny on a full-time basis with Philip Broberg, that's an upgrade. When you replace Warren Foegele with Victor Arvidsson, provided you can stay healthy, that is an upgrade. Then you make a trade for a guy who, where was he going to play in Ryan McLeod? Again, I love him. This is not a shot at Ryan McLeod. Where was he going to play? On a team this good and this deep, where was he going to be? You flipped him into one of the top 10 prospects from across the NHL on a depth chart that had been very shallow for a long time when it comes to skilled forwards. Come on. I like Tyler Tullio too. At least I like the idea of him, even though I didn't know anything about it. But man, what a trade. If we're grading it, what do you grade it?
I give it 666 out of 1,000. That's a passing grade, you know.
I feel like that's not fair. I feel like this trade was better than that.
All right, 666 out of 669. Nice.
I give this trade an A, just a straight up A. The Oilers haven't had a prospect like Savoie in their system without putting the pressure on them to compete and perform at the NHL level in forever. This is how you keep a championship team together, by making trades like this. And still, I've been an Oilers fan my whole life. I've seen the Oilers do the flip side. You know, I've seen us get fleeced by a trade. But if you read Sabres Twitter right now, even the news release that they made the trade, they are gutted by what happened here today, because Jeff Jackson, not a GM, went out and cooked something special. And he's been doing it all week. All I know is that this trade was fantastic. And it comes on a day when Leon Draisaitl's agent said he feels very confident that a deal is going to get done in Edmonton. Everything is coming up, Oilers fans, today. I'm so excited. We got just over 90 days until the regular season starts. Start it now. I'm excited. Let's get to work. Let's play some hockey. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on socials. I want to know what you think of the trade based on what my interactions and my mentions look like. Everybody is a big fan, outside of being sad that we're losing Ryan McLeod. Good player, but I think we got a better one. According to Frank Saravalli, the Oilers and Sabres started working on this trade at the draft. Maybe it took a minute. And I quote, "The Oilers and Sabres started talking about this deal last Friday at the first round of the draft and kept the dialogue going. It's an interesting deal, that's for sure. McLeod has speed on him, fits in with what the Buffalo is trying to build. Something Savoie, an Edmonton native," he's from St. Albert actually, "may already be just as good as McLeod." They got cheaper, they got younger, and they've got more skill. What's not to like about that? Jeff Jackson, you sure you don't want to stay as GM? Because, man, you're doing the job well, my boy.